Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, CF Montreal with another heavy loss in Cincinnati. We'll take a look at Jesse March roster for the September window, and finally, we'll take also a look at the opponents of the Canadian men's national team. That and a lot more on episode 193 of The Ball is Round. Hello, everyone. So today is going to be our job to make sure that you guys get a bit of enjoyment or a bit of positive vibes after this pod, if we can, at
Oh,
least.
should I log off then?
You can. No, but we have quite a few topics, and pretty excited to have you back, guys. So Eve, thanks a lot for being here. Hope you're feeling okay after this long weekend.
Yeah, a little too long for some of us.
Andy, how are things doing for you?
Listen, I'm used to doing this after a good rest on a Sunday, and just today's Tuesday, and after a long weekend. So trying to recover my good energy and trying hopefully bringing a positive side to some positive spin to this.
It's gonna be very hard. Honestly, it's gonna be
Yeah,
very, very hard. But you know what?
extremely
We're not
hard.
gonna dive into the game
Mm-mm.
like we used to do because the game was on Saturday or Tuesday, so we're not gonna bore you with all the details when we analyze the game. We're just gonna jump into it, ask a few questions, and make it a bit brief for that part, and then we're gonna dive into the Canadian men's national team because as of right now, we have a very, very big international window with two very important friendlies for the Canadian men's national team. So that's going to be very fun, I think, to take a look at. Um, so let's start with the CF Montreal. So heavy loss again in Cincinnati, a 4-1 loss. That was very tough to swallow, to be honest. So let's look first of all at the starting lineup that Laurent Courtois chose. So we had Jonathan Sirois in goal. We had in defense George Campbell, Joel Waterman, and Fernando Alvarez. As wingbacks, we had David Bugay on the right and Tom Pierce on the left. In the middle of the pitch, Samuel Piet and Nathan Saliba. And up front, we had the trio of Caden Clark, Mathias Kokaro, and Jules Anthony Vilsan. Guys, please, can someone explain that starting 11? First of
No.
all, no.
Sorry, I didn't
I,
mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done.
Okay, go ahead. Please
No, like I
go
feel
ahead.
like
Express yourself, Eve. Express
like
yourself.
there are players who have been in terrible form who are still out there. Up top, it's just a revolving door because nobody, Montreal did get one goal off a sub. Nobody's scoring a goal lately. And so it just seems as though it's it seems like a very early season type of way to compose your starting 11, except for the fact
Yeah.
that we are like 6 games from the end of the season, or 7.
7, right? I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember if it was they
uh,
played 27 before or if they played 27 after the match.
That's how much we're lost right now because it seems like we're, as Eve said at the beginning of the
It's
season,
27. Sorry, yeah, they have 7 games left. My
they
bad.
have 7 games
There are a
left.
couple of teams who have, yeah.
Exactly. So, Andy, if you look at that starting 11, and again, we talked about Laurent Courtois' convictions about how he needs to have these lieutenants on the pitch that need to relay his message. Right now, it doesn't look like we have lieutenants on the pitch. Maybe we can say Joel Waterman and Samuel Piet are the lieutenants, but even there, they're for lieutenants. They're not doing very well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So to me, this game, the most important thing to me beyond winning or losing, I wanted to see when the starting lineup was set was announced. I was looking to see what statement you're making with that starting lineup, and I think one of the most important things when we're talking about that starting lineup was when President Gabriel Gervais and Laurent Courtois spoke. They said we want to make the playoffs. We want to make a push. The push is very important to us, and to me, it all begins with the lineup, with what you're putting out there. Okay, fine. Maybe we wanted to start some other players that we haven't seen in a little bit. That's okay. That's understandable. But at the end of the day, you're losing 4-1, and you have not put Joseph Martinez or Sunusi. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of it. But just seeing that starting lineup, and I asked myself, is this a lineup like we're pushing for the playoffs right now? This lineup that's out there? Like, do we, like, similar to Hady, what you're saying is about, lieutenants or leader of the team? Is there a true leader in that lineup to lead the cause that Laurent Courtois is trying to put out there? Just looking at the starting lineup, I was not convinced that this was the lineup to do a run to the playoffs. It just wasn't.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And you look at players that haven't been in good form the whole season, like George Campbell, for example, or Gilon Tony-Vincent hasn't played a minute since the 20th of July, and getting the start on Saturday was a bit.
Like,
he's very talented. I'm not saying he's not, but
yeah,
since the 20th of July, he didn't have a minute, and then he gets the start in front of Kwadwo Opoku that's been
ready,
like healthy for a month now. So I don't get it. Do you get the idea behind it? Because usually, exactly.
But I think we've been saying that for weeks. Like, we've been scratching our heads at various decisions for weeks. So I feel like this is not like unique. It's a symptom of a larger disease. Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think that Laurent Courtois, in a way, gave up on this season already?
Sometimes it looks like it. It honestly does. Because I'm going to say no, just because, like, we haven't seen a lot of the very young players. Like, we haven't seen a lot of Yellow in quite some time, for example. And that's kind of, I think, probably one of the number one signs that you've given up on your season is when you see those young players who really aren't ready, for full league action, but are kind of on the cusp, and you see them getting more and more minutes. So kind of based on the fact that I think the players who are starting are players who you would reasonably expect to be part of the first team. I don't think so, but I think his methodology for selecting his starting 11 still leaves us scratching our heads, because clearly, we're 27 games into the season, but he hasn't found a combination that works.
Exactly, because I agree with you. And Andy, I want to ask you this, okay? You have this team, okay? And you want to make the playoffs. You still believe in your team. You're going to put your veterans on the pitch, right? For the last 6-7 games of the season. In my opinion, I would have, even if they're not as good, for me, it's like, you are the leaders. Show me what you can do. And for me, I would have put, Victor Wanyama back. I would have put Joseph Martinez back with Matias Kokaro. I would have put, like, Raheem Edwards, those players.
Well, Raheem Edwards was suspended.
Yeah, I know, but like, what I'm saying is
theoretically,
for the rest of the season,
even then,
just throw him out there. That's a sign for sure that the season's gone.
No, but like, your best players, if not your veterans, but also your best players, like Marshall Rudy on the right, the best players should have been the one that started. But right now, I feel that Laurent Courtois is just, I feel he's waiting to be sacked. And he wants to be sacked because he's going to be paid for the rest of the 3 years of his contract. I don't know. I have that feeling, but at the same time, Go ahead, Andy. Answer that. You have that feeling too, or is
Yeah,
it only me? Is it
that's
only in my head?
look, my opinion is this. I don't think he's waiting to be sacked. I think what was very telling, was I think now it must be 2 months ago. I don't know how long it was, guys, that he said the words, "This is a transitional season." And we've seen this in other sports. And I use the word tanking, and I know tanking doesn't really transition well into MLS, because there is no such thing as the worst team winning anything. But what's happening now, and when we see teams that are, say, tanking or have given up on the season, if you want, is they start experimenting with stuff that obviously the fan understands that, okay, look, we've given up on the season. We're seeing new pieces. We're seeing how good or bad these new pieces, like the Pierce, the Jakili, Marshall Ruddy, and all these new players that were signed, how good or bad can they be in this lineup. I don't think he's waiting to be sacked. I really think he's like, you know what, F this season. Like, I think it's over for us. Like, I don't think it's a he thing, but again, going to what you're saying, Hady, as far as the starting lineup, what you're trying to say is that you will put players that understand the gravity of the situation, not people that are getting used to the MLS or getting used to the team. It's leaders like Joseph Martinez, Raheem Edwards, all these players that understand what the playoffs in the MLS and the importance of that it has in the future of next season. And I just don't think that it's players right now that are learning the Laurent Courtois way, learning CF Montreal, learning all these things. That are they really willing to put everything to go for the playoffs? That's what becomes to me a thing where I'm like, again, I don't know if I don't think it's him waiting to be sacked. I think it's more like him, like, you know what, guys, we'll just try out what we have. We'll try every hand and
But
see what works.
but again, we try what we have. Like, okay, you have one of the best defenders in the last 2 years, Gabriele Corbo, not not playing in the position that
Mhm.
he was best at. You have George Campbell that hasn't been good. Like, the, I don't
Yeah.
understand where we're going with that. And at the same time, it's not time to give up on the season. We were only 1 point away from the playoff line. Like, is it? We weren't like 10 points away at that point. I would have understood this, but we were very, very close to be making the playoffs. At the same time, Eve, we saw a
Mhm.
different game plan from Laurent Courtois. I think Laurent Courtois tried to have that CF Montreal team back that
Mhm.
was at the beginning of the season, playing away
Yeah,
from home,
like
very
a gritty
defensively,
kind of.
like exactly
So
compact
nice.
CF
Uh,
Montreal and everything.
Mhm.
Uh, like, why now? After the whole season, why? Like, again, I just don't get it.
I don't get it. I saw, and obviously it fell apart. It became shambles eventually.
mhm.
So obviously, I think there's still a lot of fragility. Um, oh, my microphone is not plugged in. Sorry, I just realized that.
It's okay. We can hear you
uh,
well.
okay, well, we'll fix it. Um, I don't know. It's confusing. Like, did the players have some kind of private discussion, and like maybe they kind of pulled their socks up a little bit? Did some kind of big, deep meditation exercise and reflection happen? I don't know. Because it did seem like there was a slight degree more of cohesion, at least at the start, and then it apart after.
Yeah, yeah. It was very weird. And Andy Laurent said in a post game presser, he said that he he was not proud of his players, but he couldn't ask more of his players, and these players were unlucky. I agree. I agree that in a couple of goals they were unlucky. In 2 goals they were unlucky. Completely agree with that.
Mm.
But like losing 4-1, it's not only a lack of luck. Like, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, this team didn't really create anything up front until the last, what, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
10-15 minutes, where they started to create. I think their first goal, their first shot, not shot on goal, their first shot was after the 75th minute
Yeah.
or something like that. Like, how can you how can you explain the words of Laurent Courtois saying, "Oh, we played well in the first half"? Where did you play well? Like how?
Well, I mean, look, in the like you said, in the last 75 minutes when there was those shots that you started, that was actually I remember watching those last minutes. I was like, they are actually flowing nicely. Like it's a nice flow that they're having, and Opoko actually scored a very nice goal with an assist from Fernandez. But the whole game before, it was so well. Also, Montreal I felt played a lot more back, and the moment they started attacking even a little bit was when
Mhm.
Cincinnati just jumped on the defense, just went all out on trying to sabotage their defense. So it was one of those things that I think they played a little more conservative, but it became, like you said, those two of those goals were just luck. Honestly, I can't say that was a Cincinnati skills per se. They were nice kicks, but they were lucky bounces. But the rest, the two other goals that they scored, it was just a lack of concentration and immaturity, and just like I don't know if they're. I wanted to say I think it's the third goal that George Campbell just got turned around because the other one was no, I'm
No, the
confusing.
third
Anyways, in one
goal
of them
was
George Campbell.
That was the big
the lob
chip.
on
Yeah.
on
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Are you thinking of the
was,
second goal maybe? Because it was the second one scored by the same player.
yeah, the one where George Campbell got turned around, and it was just like silly because Joel Waterman had gone up almost to midfield, and it's just like we've seen this over and over again, right? That's one of the defenders commits up front, and then you expose the defense because the midfielders are not, I guess, fast enough or not well positioned to help out the central defenders. So it's one of those things that it's like, what's the solution to that? Because it keeps happening every single week. Do you bench George Campbell and do you put Gabriel Corbo? Do you make another change in the back three? And then I don't know. It's just and just I kind of felt bad for Jonathan Sirois and all this with that goal. I mean, it is his fault. He was badly positioned, and then I think the Cincinnati player was smart enough to take advantage. Anybody would do that, but yeah. Anyways, I find that Cincinnati just took advantage of lack of judgment and concentration in CF Montreal on Saturday night.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's talk a bit about Jonathan Sirois and that goal that he uh that doesn't it didn't look good on him. Like honestly,
No.
we can forgive a lot of things, and he's not the one to be pointing fingers at for the whole season, Jonathan Sirois,
Mhm.
far from it. But this was really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not the first keeper who it's happened to, and he won't be the last, and probably won't even be the last one in his career. But yeah, once again, it just feels like, not sure, where one's mind was during that sequence. Really, I don't know. Because I remember thinking at one point, like, man, I hope that Cincinnati keeper like brought a book or something to read because we didn't see him. I didn't know if he was out there or
It's
not.
crazy. It's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to make a big deal of it because we've seen it happen countless times to keepers.
Yeah.
And he's young.
I mean,
He's young. Yeah.
sure, yeah. But no. I just mean, like, in general, I think that like a lot of keepers do switch off like that. Unfortunately, it tends to be kind of when their team, or I should say, often it's more so when their team is winning, and not so much when they are losing, but still kind of a semblance of hope. At getting, because a 2-0, in theory, you're still in the game. At 3-0, you're significantly less in the game, and at 4-0, you are
Gone.
done. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I mean, it's got to be hard to be motivated to be like at your 110%. Obviously, this is what they get paid to do. Like, this is, if I showed up to work and displayed the level of concentration and engagement that we've seen at times this season from different folks, I think I would not be in a job right now. But yeah, I don't know. Like, this one for me, like, I kind of just rolled my eyes and was like, oh, another one. Here we go. I didn't honestly have I think I've like run out of strong reactions at this point. Sorry.
But it must be the same thing for Jonathan Sirois because I mean you just let in 5 goals the week before. Not completely your fault, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there's still 5 goals that you gave up, and then you're down 2-0 again.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I mean, what is Jonathan Sirois thinking while he's in the nets and he's seeing how the game is developing and seeing all that? Like he's such a young kid. Yeah, he's bound to make a million and one mistakes as he gets older. But like like you said, Hady, like you can't point the finger to the season at him. He's not. Yes, he's
Yeah.
letting a lot of goals, but the scheme also hasn't helped for him, and the lack of consistency in the back. So you feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for him because I think he's done a fantastic job this season, but still 9 goals in 2 weeks. That has to get to you at some point. Your confidence, your concentration, your anxiety to just do the simple things. The simple things like being well placed when a ball is not being that far back when the opponent has the ball. Like it's that far forward. Sorry, close to the midfield. So it's really easy to like for anyone, not just us, anyone to like say, hey, he sucks. He's at the worst, but it's not true. He You just let in 9 goals like in 2 weeks, and that to me, I feel bad for the kid, but eh, there's always room for improvement. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we can feel bad for a lot of players because and that's the game we're gonna play right now. You are the sporting director of CF Montreal because there isn't any, right? It's a vacant position right now. So let's say Yves, you're the one that's selected to take over Olivier Renard right now.
Okay.
You watch this game, and based on this game and the rest of the season, you have to keep players for next year.
Yeah.
Can you choose like 5 players that you would keep?
Yeah. Alvarez, I would keep. I would keep Serrois. I mean, 2023 was a very good season for him, so perhaps 2024 is a blip. I guess it's a 50% chance. I would still keep Gabriele Corbo. I love Gabriele Corbo. I want to see more of him on the pitch, sadly. Not saying that he would save this defense, but nonetheless, Raheem Edwards for his spirit. I think he has a character that is much needed right now. Nathan Saliba continues to grow into his own. That's 4. And for the 5th,
That's 5.
oh, I did name 5?
Yeah, that's 5.
Okay, I can't count. Awesome. I told you guys I was tired. All right, there you go. There's 5 for you.
But it's weird. Did you realize that you named 3 defenders, the goalkeeper, and a midfielder that's playing a holding midfielder role in a team that just conceded 9 goals in 2 games?
Yeah, I do.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it's just
It's crazy.
it's also a team that has scored 1 goal in 2 games, and
True.
it has scored one.
Yeah.
Actually, it's scored 1 goal in like 3+ games. So technically, is it the worst?
No, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
and like we know we have good players. We don't have bad players.
Yeah, we just have a team that doesn't play well together.
Good. So
Yeah.
whose fault is that?
I
Do you
mean,
think?
I don't think it's any one individual's fault.
Okay.
I think it's a bit of the organizational issues that Montreal's had this year. I think it's been a struggle for Laurent Courtois to instill kind of any kind of tactical rigor or discipline. And then, of course, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the players who show up onto the pitch and do or do not perform. So I think it has to be shared.
I agree. The responsibility has to be shared 100%. Andy, same question for you. We're changing it a bit just for Maxime, who says that you are the consultant in charge and not the sporting director. It's a joke for Maxime. Who are the 5 players that you'll keep?
Am I Andy Ray? Well, look, the 5 players that I would keep would probably be. I'm looking at the roster, so sorry if I'm looking to the side. I'm looking at the roster to see like what names. I would keep Bryce Duke. Obviously, no, I'm not gonna pick Bryce.
Hey, Wellington's gonna come and kill
But
you now.
Hmm.
his hand for my screen. But Jonathan Sirois, I'll probably keep because I think he's a decent goalie. Alvarez, I would keep him. Um, Nathan Saliba and Ibrahim Sunusi. I did 4, right? 4,
Yeah.
and Matias Kokaro because I think he's talented enough. I would,
Yeah. I'll ask you
but
exactly the
but
same
to
questions. We are the ball is round. We've been doing that podcast since the beginning of the season, once a week. Discussing the games, analyzing the games. One of the observers, one of the podcasters, Eve, choose 4 defensive players and a midfielder. You choose 3 or 4 offensive players and a midfielder. No, and a defender. Sorry. Like, again, I'll ask you the same question. Our team is not that bad.
no.
Who's the culprit?
So I think it starts from the top. It's not. I mean, what we're seeing in the field. I'm going to go on a little bit on a rant, but what we're seeing on the field is the result of the top. Um, if CF Montreal wants to get it right, it needs to start from the top. Those people on the board need to get their act together and need to figure out what direction this team wants to go in and how they're going to provide that to Laurent Courtois, who can possibly be a good coach. We have no idea because he's had such a crappy season. But it starts from the top. If there's anyone to blame, it has to be blamed from the top, not from the bottom. It's easy to blame the people on the field and it's easy to blame the coach, but it starts from the top because they're the ones that created this mess from the beginning. They brought in people from Bologna. They got people out. They brought people in. They caused the ruckus. So it's all distractions that the players hear and see and read everywhere. And again, we can blame one silly move on a defender or one silly move on a forward or not. But there's so much going on, and I think the blame goes to the top. You can't. That's the way I see it.
Okay, interesting. I think we said our piece on this game. I don't think we need to dwell on it a bit more than that. I think we have quite a few questions from our fans, and we'll start with Sean Richardson's question because at the same time, before you share it, I just want to share Laurent Lépin's comment on Facebook that says, "I don't know if Courtois gave up, but I gave up my season tickets for a very long time." You can add our friends Sean Richardson's tweet last week. A lot of longtime season ticket holders, myself included, announced that they canceled their tickets for 2025. Do you think that this is generalized or just a few people on Twitter? Go ahead, Eve.
So I can speak for myself.
You canceled?
Yeah, I did, in fact. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the way things were going with the team wasn't the only factor in my decision. I just kind of have like other priorities that have arisen, and whatnot, but it definitely was a factor in my decision. I don't necessarily trust them to be any more enjoyable to watch next year. And I said, like, I really hope that things turn around and we get a semblance of a vision because I'd be happy to renew anytime. I'm going to miss a lot of the people who I regularly saw at the stadium. But yeah, it's weird.
Andy.
Yeah, I personally canceled mine as well, and I haven't been a season ticket holder that long. I know that there's a lot of people that have been longer than me, and that's fine. My reason is also similar to Eve. It's a disappointing product that you see and you hear about the way that the club is directing, directing their vision that is not really invested towards the fans' interest. So why would I spend? I put a tweet out the other day where I said, everybody's going through their own financial issues, everyone. And if you have the choice to buy, say, a new PS5 or a new fridge, whatever it is that you want to buy, and invest in season tickets with CF Montreal, right now, the way the future is looking and the way that the club is doing things, I think that fridge looks nicer and that PS5 looks nicer too. It's bound to give you a little bit more happiness, And I know it's kind of a silly example, but if the team wants people to be sold on the project and be sold on what it is that they're doing and come to the stadium and continue enjoying it, like they actually have to give us a reason to go, right? Give us a reason to show up every Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, it's there still will be individual tickets, which should be fun when you can and if you can afford it. But because I like honestly, I don't know about you, Hady and E, but the stadium, Saputo Stadium, is so nice to go on a Saturday night when it's
Yeah,
hot and it's
it's
19,000 packed.
such,
It's special. It's special,
it's also
and
special under
and
the
I've been
rain.
to. Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's just the environment
Yeah.
is special. It's very personal, and you always see the people that you see in the press conferences walking around the stadium, greeting. So it's a very personal stadium. It's very nice. Nothing takes
Yeah.
away from it, but those for like say the everyday Joe that just wants to see a soccer game, that doesn't know the reality behind everything, it's a nice experience. But
Hmm.
for the those of us that love this team and follow this team and wanted to win and follow it week by week, it's just discouraging. Like, why are we putting money into something that isn't giving us anything? So besides
Hmm.
stuff to talk about every Sunday that the
Hmm.
ball is round.
Yeah, I'm not. I will never criticize your decisions or the decisions of the people that have canceled their season tickets. Of course, at the end of the day, if you can't find enjoyment or you can't find anything, or you're not happy going to the stadium, or even sometimes you don't feel like going to the stadium, of course, it's ridiculous to pay money for it.
Hmm.
Personally, I'm not of the same mind. Personally, I will keep my season tickets. The reason behind it is because I have lived 22 years of my
No,
life
Marseille.
in a country. What?
I thought
No,
you were gonna say Marseille, like because Marseille. Anyway, sorry to
no,
interrupt you.
no, not Marseille at all. So I have lived 22 years of my life loving a sport that I wasn't able to watch live.
Hmm.
I never went to a stadium when I was younger. I just went, maybe a couple of times to see the Lebanese national team, and not the same level, of course. So coming here, one of the first thing that I wanted to see, and when it was announced that Montreal will have an MLS team, and even before, I made sure, and even if they weren't in MLS, even before I had my season ticket, uh, and for me, being able to go on a pitch and support a professional national team, a professional team, sorry, is all I can ask for. The rest is, ups and downs, and it's part of life. It's part of the cycle of being a soccer fan, and honestly, for me, I don't see myself canceling ever my season tickets, because I'm not here only for the wins. I'm not here only for the
Hmm.
project. I'm here because I want to see football. I want to see professional football. I want to see players from Quebec getting their chance. I want to see um, the national team players sometimes from the Canadian national team play. I want to see, yeah, sometimes I want to see the opponents. Yeah, why not? And sometimes I want to see the players of my team, like players that I loved, and stars, and that came in as stars, and players that came in as nobodies. And if I give my starting 11 of the all-time players, my all-time starting 11 of Montreal Impact, I'm pretty sure there are some players that you will look at me and you would say, really, you choose him? Like Jeb Brofsky. I love that player. For me, he
Hmm.
that's the kind of players that I want to see in my team. So I don't know. Again, there are, I completely, I'm not judging at all your decisions, but I I'm not taking the same
Okay.
decision as
That's
That's
as
fine.
very
you.
fair.
And
But
yeah, exactly, it's fair.
yeah, that's
Go
very
ahead,
fair
Andy.
though, Hadi, because there's a lot of people that probably when Thierry Henry left and Wilfred Nancy was going to be your new coach, a lot of people took that same attitude. Probably they were like, you know what, we're just bringing in luck. Like I wasn't following the team that close, so I don't know. It probably wasn't as massive amount. It's also that we sold 15,000 season tickets last year, and it's obviously
Hmm.
it's that much easier to like not renew when it's 15,000. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. Everybody and it's a very valid reason, Hady, I think that you're saying, you just,
Mhm.
you'll be there through the good and the bad, because of personal reasons, right? The way you grew up. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a massive decision to make.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
At the same time, again, I understand the frustration of everybody. Honestly, 2 years in a row where they it's hard to follow that
Yeah.
team. It's hard to be in love with that team. Completely agree with you. Let's move on with the other questions that we had. So you can choose whatever one.
Okay. Well, then we're gonna start at the top of the list. How's that?
Go ahead.
All right. We have Amin.
Yeah, so I mean, asking, will Gervais or Corey Ray transfer Sunusi Ibrahim and his $410,000 salary prior to Friday's deadline, knowing that Renat extended him until December 2026? And will they replace him by free agents prior to September 13th MLS deadline? So just to let you know and to give you a bit of context, Sunusi Ibrahim is rumored to be signing with a Belgian side.
Mhm.
And the date that Amin gave, the first date, is the day that the Belgian transfer market closes. So that's the first thing. And the second part is the one in September. So September 13th, if I'm not mistaken, that he mentioned. It's the roster freeze date in MLS because you are able to sign free agents until the roster freeze date. So he's asking that question. Andy, what do you think about that rumor? Do you believe that this is going to happen or not really?
No, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Succinct.
That's all I'm going to say. It's not going to happen.
Why?
I think they're set on the roster, and they're not going to move. And I don't think they want to move Sunusi.
Even if they're having a good price for him.
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
Eve?
Likewise, I find it really surprising if it were to happen. I mean, that's a hefty salary, I think, for practically any club to absorb. Obviously, I think that if a club were willing to take on Sunusi at this salary, then yes. However, I just kind of find it a bit unlikely that a club would be willing to invest such a significant amount in a player who really only was ever a starter because he was kind of the last man standing. So I also think it's unlikely.
Okay, interesting. Honestly, I'm not really sure, and honestly, I don't really care in a way because I like Sunusi Ibrahim, but I don't think he's going to be our star player for the next 3 years. So if he's here, that's really good. He's a good rotation player. I really like what he does. I think he can still grow. He can still evolve 100%. But if he's sold for a good amount with a fee percentage or a percentage transfer percentage on the next sale, why not? I wouldn't say no. So I don't think it's going to happen because we're getting a bit too close to the end of the market. But even Eric Chenois just said yesterday that the talks are still ongoing. So let's wait and see if that happens. If that happens, it's good. I think for Sunusi, it's good for the club too. So why not? Yeah. But one thing is for sure: even if he gets sold, he will not be replaced, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be really surprised.
Do you guys think we would be in the same place in the table today? CF Montreal would be in the same place in the table today if Sunusi hadn't performed the way he did when everybody was injured, scoring all those goals? Because I do feel like when we went through that period where there were all those injuries of the forward, Kokaro was out, Martinez was out, we really needed him to step up, right? He was probably, and Mason Toy, I think at some point was also gone. Like we literally had nobody. We were playing. We were only playing. He saved their butt. So my point being is, like I said, I stand by what I said. I don't think he's going to be taken out, but it would be the best moment probably to take him out, because get some value out of him because of his age and also because of the fact of how he performed when he was needed. So, but like I said, I stand by what I said. I don't think it's going to happen, but he would be a fantastic moment for him to do it, just because of the value the team can get out of him.
Exactly. That will make sense. More. Let's go along with the next question from Emil. So Emil is really taking care of us and hoping that we're doing okay. He hopes we have some good self-care routines, and he says, "I don't envy you having to talk about all this. Anyway, these days I'm thinking about Renard. When will be the appropriate time to evaluate his work and his legacy and his share of responsibility for this season?" Eve, I'll let you start.
I think that, we should probably be able to have a good sense at the end of this season, kind of once all the dust has settled and we see, if Montreal pulls their socks up over the next 7 games maybe, and, they have some kind of miracle breakthrough and all of a sudden things look a lot rosier toward the end of the season. I'm not saying I think that's likely by any stretch, but regardless, I think at the end of the season, like once Montreal is done playing, I think that'll be a good start. But I also think it would be interesting to look back next year or even 2 years from now and just sort of see, of the players who are still with Montreal who signed during the Renard era, like kind of how are they doing, where are they going, so on and so forth. But I'd say, like, given how early in the season he left, I think end of the season, one would be able to get a good sense.
I'm not sure. For me, I look at the Renard signings and I don't look at this season only. Right? You look at the whole 3 years, and you have so many players that signed here that did very well and went to Europe, and then their career either took off or had a drastic change, and that's okay. And of course, you had some of the players that weren't really good, but at the same time, I think we're going to be able, first of all, maybe to judge Renard maybe at the end of the season. Maybe right now, for me, it's going to be the same thing, because whatever happens at the end of the season is not only Renard signing those players, but also the impact that Renard's departure had on these players too. So it's hard to really judge Renard on this season only. But if I look at his overall performance, I can already say that for me it was a very positive performance. It's not great, and it's never going to be. You can't find anybody that's been great for any club, but I think it's a big loss that he left 100%. And I think we're going to be able to compare the post-Renard era with the Renard era, I think, in 2 to 3 years. Because as of right now, all the players that have signed after Renard era
are brand new.
But we can't really say anything about them yet.
No.
But even if you look at the small sample size, you're still not convinced that they're better than what Renard.
No, but I think, like, to be fair, you kind of have to give it the same amount of time, like, as the Renard era lasted. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But, like, you look at the players that he signed.
Yeah.
And that after a year signed abroad. And now the players that have signed have been signed by other people, Corey Ray and all the others, were far from seeing very positive performances either. So it's not comparable yet, but I don't see a bright future after Renard than a brighter future after Renard than during Renard's era.
Not right now, no.
Andy?
I think because look, Olivier Renard was hired in November 2019, if I remember, and the success we really saw from his team was in 2022, the end of 2022. So my opinion is that the only way we'll be able to actually judge if it was good or not will be if we actually have something else to sample him with, right? So another similar, say, sporting director or approach that developed a young and sell him like he did with the limited budget that this club offers. If somebody else can do it either better or worse than him, that's the only reason. That's the only way we'll be able to compare, and this could happen in maybe 2 years. So it's too soon for me to say he sucked or he was good at what he
too
did.
soon. Perfect. Moving on. Next question.
Alrighty. Next is Fan de Sport.
Fan de Sport says a lot of people were very excited at the winter's transfer market, thinking that we had very good players in the squad. And it says, and he comments saying, it's hard to be a fan of this club.
Yeah, so this is like more of a comment than a question, really.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
do you agree? Like for me, I still think that those players that have been signed in winter haven't shown their full potential.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
Someone like Yankov, I'm pretty sure he could have done wonders for this club.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
agree with you. Like on paper, it was an excellent off season, but as I say, and as kind of Fan de Sport alluded to, you do have to be made of tough stuff to support this club.
True.
To be patient.
True.
Yeah.
Mm.
You have to be patient, and I mean, some of the players are not giving us much reason to be patient, such as Joseph Martinez, who did sign in the winter. But like when he does little things like that creates a stir in the media and all that, like it's easy to be like, you know what, that market sucked, but it's too early. I mean, what if we get 2 seasons of Matias Kokaro and he's actually really, really good? Or Yankov, maybe next year it's his breakout season. He really needed 1 season to get the hang of the league and get the hang of Montreal or whatnot. So we'll see. Too soon.
Next up.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Foot.
Okay. So, Dr. Foot asking us our opinion on what Jean-Charles Lajoie, a renowned radio host, that says that, the team, he thinks that the team is going to move and he's going to change owners and he's going to move from Montreal at the end of the expansion era of the MLS. What do you guys think?
I'm good. Go ahead.
You have nothing to say. Okay. Hady.
I mean, the president said it, right? We're not moving, so let it go. That's I want to believe what they say. So
yeah, honestly, I don't. It's very easy to say, you know what, they're going to be sold. Like, maybe in 2054 they're going to be sold. That's a possibility. Like for me,
and what, you're gonna retweet your 2024 tweet and be like, I said it.
Yeah, exactly. So, at one point they're going to be sold. Maybe it's going to be when the expansions are done. So in a couple of years, maybe it's not going to be never. As of right now, in the short term, they're not moving anywhere. Next year they'll still be here. So I don't think they're moving anywhere, unless we're mistaken. But we don't see this unless someone buys it and keeps the team in Montreal. Let's wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wait and see. Moving on.
Radio.
I'm over that subject. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Next up is JP.
Yeah. Granted, Cincinnati was always going to be a super tough assignment, but would another heavy defeat in our next game potentially put Courtois at risk before the end of the season? I hope not, but such heavy losses could be deemed unsustainable, unacceptable, even in the short term. You know what? I'm going to answer this one.
Okay.
JP, unfortunately, I think what Gabriel Gervais said was very, very clear. At the end of the transfer market, he said it's unacceptable with the quality that we have in this team. It's unacceptable that we don't make the playoffs. So for me, Courtois' job is already on the line. And is it fair or not? I don't think it's fair. I don't think that Laurent Courtois, I think he made a lot of mistakes, 100%. I think he had to be given time, but at the same time, he had to have a better structure around him, and he didn't have that structure either.
The structure fell apart after he showed up.
Exactly. So I'm not blaming Laurent Courtois only, but he is to blame too. And at the end of the day, the president is the one that's going to take a decision. And I think that if we don't make the playoffs, he's not here anymore, unless he is able to instill some sort of confidence in the team for the last 7 games of the season, but I don't see how he's going to be able to do it. I don't
Yeah,
see it at all.
same.
So wait and see. I don't know if you had anything
No, I'm
to add,
good.
guys.
You said it all.
I don't think he's gonna get fired if we don't make it to the playoffs.
Fair
I
enough.
think
You don't think he's
Gabriel
going to do
Gervais,
it?
when he was no, I think Gabriel Gervais was just saying that to please the fans. I might eat my words after. You guys might be saying how wrong I was, but you guys know me. I'm the
It's the
little
best part.
Laurent Courtois' little cheerleader. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't believe he's gonna get fired. I think this is a transitional year. I've said
Yeah.
it over and over again, and they're willing to go with whatever happens with this.
Well, one of you will be able to make the other eat crow, I guess, at the end of the season.
Yes.
All right. Shall we?
Yeah, moving on.
Matcha?
So, Mathieu Charon, how do you think the support for the club will be affected next year following this disastrous season we just had? Will people have forgotten?
I mean, I think if people who have, sorry, I jumped in. I
Yeah,
think
go
people
ahead.
who have kind of been around for a while kind of know that Montreal has these kind of ebbs and flows. And right now we're at the bottom of that. And kind of the only way is up. So I think for people, if like this was their first season following Montreal, they're probably going to be a little bit destabilized, like a little bit
Destabilized.
I don't think that's how you say it in English.
Disappointed, maybe. That they
Well,
thought
just a
yeah.
little bit like put off, a little bit put off. I would say.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. By the whole thing. But I think for people who have followed this club for quite some time, I think they're used to it, and they are made of the tough stuff to which I consistently allude. And so I think if they are people who didn't hit their breaking point and canceled season tickets or whatnot, I think they're probably in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and I agree that a lot of people are going to jump ship and just completely forget about the club. I still think that if you're able to bring results back, you will get them back at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Or most of them. Now, maybe not all of them, but most of them. So yeah, maybe we'll see an effect for next year. But let's say if next year they sign 1 or 2 DPs during the offseason, I don't think it's going to happen. But if they do, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to change their mind and come and rebuy season tickets. So I think it's all about cycles. I think that I said it before. It's all about cycles, and at one point, the cycle is going to be positive again because it's the way life works. We had a positive year in 2022. The problem with the CF Montreal is that the cycle is the bad side of the cycle is a bit too long compared to the good side of the cycle, and that needs to be fixed as fast as possible for sure.
It gets forgotten because does anybody remember what happened before Olivier Renard came? Like, do the fans remember what happened before Olivier Renard came? What a mess it was! What a disaster it was! It was. I mean, you had a Rémi Garde that was just fired. We had a. I mean, I was a season ticket holder in 2019, and it was my first season, and I was like, what is this team and what is happening and where does it start? Where does it end? Like, who is this guy Rémi Garde and why does he suck so bad? We had Bakary Sagna, but it's in every sport. I've said it before. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan in the NFL, and we had a season where we were 0-15. This was in 2008. It was the most horrible. We literally won no games, and then now we're talking 2024, and everybody expects us to win the Super Bowl because we have so many stars. But the point being is people forget. And things, like you said, are a roller coaster. But the ones that follow the club every day, the ones that follow every day and are always, keeping track of the tiny little movements that are made, it's long. It's long. Those seasons where there's nothing that happens and we keep sucking and sucking as we have that 1 year where everything just clicks, everything goes well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's all about cycles. So let's wait and see. Moving on.
Next team.
I understand the situation is far from easy for the players, but I am disappointed in how the leadership group is responding to the current situation. Piet, Waterman, and Sirois are having their worst moments. Your thoughts? Honestly, 100%. 100%. And that's for me what's really worrisome is that even your leaders are not really responding.
Mhm.
And that for me shows some sort of a break between between the group and Laurent Courtois. It feels that something is broken, and it's not normal. Usually, your leaders are the one that they usually show up during these moments. You know, after a 5-0 loss at home, you expect your veterans to be there and be very, very good. I think Joel Waterman had his worst game of the season in Cincinnati, and by far, and by far. And he hasn't had a very good year this year. So that's how bad he was in
He's regressed.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
So
he's regressed.
no, I agree. I agree a lot with what Maxime said. I feel something's broken in that club
Yep.
right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, normally you're in these moments, in these difficult moments, or even the good moments, especially the good moments. You guys remember in 2022, we were able to pinpoint the captains in the team.
Yeah.
We're like, because they were proud to be a captain of such a successful team. But when it's not a successful team and it's an embarrassing team, everybody disappears. Everybody hides behind the other person. So it's so hard to find a leader, a true leader in this team right now that is willing to take the blame and say, you know what, I can right the ship, I can do this and all that. It's difficult right now.
It's very difficult, honestly, for everybody, for the players, for the staff, and for the fans. It's not only the fans that are really having it, having it very bad. I think we have a couple more comments, so let's start with the simple guy. With Chouaniev's move to Swiss League, is this a sideways move? Or is the Swiss League better than MLS? If Mihailovic couldn't make it in Europe, do you expect Chouanier to return in MLS? Who wants to answer? I can answer if you want.
I don't follow the Swiss League enough to know if it's good or bad, but I know that the Mihailovic situation was a little bit different. I wouldn't say that he couldn't make it in Europe. I think he played well, but he also did have some, at least what he said in the interviews was that he had some family issues that he had to look back at home. That could happen to any player in the world, and it happens. I wouldn't say Mihailovic didn't work out in Europe, but I can't comment. I'll let you guys comment on that because I don't know the Swiss League that well. Based on what I heard, it's less than the MLS, but again, I don't follow it to have an opinion.
I think there are some clubs that rise and perform at the very highest levels. Like if you look at Basel, for example, they're often a very interesting club in the Swiss League and in European soccer in general. And, they have caused a couple of interesting upsets, even just in recent years, over, powerhouse clubs. But I think from my limited viewing, and I've only caught a few games kind of here and there, overall, I don't think it's like as complex technically as a league, as some of the ones that you first think of when you think of Europe.
No, for sure. It's not the same as the top 5 in Europe. But at the same time, you have teams that are qualified for the playoff round of the Champions League.
Yeah.
And have made the Champions League quite a few times. You talked about Basel, but Zurich is the same thing. Servette is the same thing. Young Boys de Bern are the same thing.
Oh, yeah, Young Boys.
Young Boys are really, really, it's a very good team, by the way, this year. They didn't qualify for Champions League, but they're going to be good in Europa League. So you have a team in Europa League. You have 2 teams in Europa Conference League. So yes, they're not the top of the top, but you have some very good team. Now, Grasshopper Zurich is a very, very good club. The thing is, they haven't been good in the past few years. They are at the bottom of the Swiss League, and that's what's worrying. That's what's worrying. And even right now, you see last year, I think they finished second to last. So it's been a very tough year for them. Now, it's still a move to Europe. And you're going and, everybody, all the clubs in Europe, they scout each other, right? So let's say if you want a mid-table club in Ligue 1 in France is surely going to scout the Swiss league. And at that point, if Mathieu Chouanière does well, he will be recruited by that mid-table League 1 club. And then mid-table League 1 club, of course, is not going to pay much for Mathieu Chouanière. So it is a move. I don't think it's sideways, but it's not that better of a league. But it's a Grasshopper Zurich is a stepping stone for Mathieu Chouanière in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. But he needs to perform with them. That's going to be very hard because the club is not doing very well with one of our former coaches, Marco Chalibam. So let's wait and see what's going to happen with Mathieu Chouanière. But I don't think it's a bad move from Mathieu Chouanière, honestly. And last but not least, from our good friend, Sam Savvy. And that's a question I'm going to ask it to you, Yves. He says Montreal is ranked 5th in the league for passes completed and 27th for shot attempts. What explains such a discrepancy?
If I had when this question was coming at me, I would have gone and gotten some graphics. I think it's the number of backward passes they do. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Backwards and sideways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even not a word of a lie. That's my theory.
Yeah. Andy?
Yeah, same. I mean, have you guys seen their forward passes or progressive passes? It's not pretty. They're not pretty.
Oh, so, and I'm not the only one who thinks this. Along with Andy. Sorry. Because we also have Tamis who said the exact same thing.
It's easy to rank that when you back pass. So you have to look at the context of the game, because if you were so good at passing, then we wouldn't be losing 4-1 and 5-0 2 weeks in a row. It just wouldn't happen. So
you'd retain a lot more possession. Yeah.
I think I agree, and I'll give you a bit of the rants that we're having right now on the show. So first of all, you have Patrick White saying behind in the show, but Courtois coaches like it's an MLS next pro team, spreading out the playing time instead of sticking with a lineup and establishing a hierarchy. We have Holy Gale that says,
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Samuel Sabi says, to your point, Patrick, I went back and watched The Faithful. And then he says, Atlanta game away last year that seemingly killed Losada. How many games this year looked like that game? A lot, some being even worse. And Losada had 4 as his main striker. Courtois has to go. I think Samuel Savi said it quite a few times and explained it quite a few times that he doesn't like Laurent Courtois. No. Honestly, again, we talked about it quite a few times. Yeah, Laurent Courtois is to blame for sure, but I think he's not the only one. So I don't know. I'm okay with both decisions. Letting him go at the end of the year or keeping him at the end of the year. For me, it's all that happens around him that's going to be very important and not him specifically. So let's wait and see what's going to happen with that. Unless you guys have anything else that you want to add, I think we can move on to the men's national team. You know, the team that's going to beat Andy's team. So let's talk about the men's national team.
You cut up there, Hady. Can you say that one more time?
Let's talk about the men's national team. Jesse March selecting his roster ahead of the international window. So we do have a roster up with Sam Adekugbe that was changed a bit later by Nathan Saliba because he was injured. Stephen Afrifa, Ali Ahmed, Theo Baer, Moise Bombito, Mathieu Chouanière, Derek Cornelius, Maxime Crépeau, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies, Steven Eustachio, Addison Johnston, Kyle Larin, Richie Larea, Liam Miller, Kamal Miller, Tani Oluwasei, Jonathan Osorio, Jacob Schaffelberg, Nico Sigur, Jonathan Sirois, Dane Sinclair, and Joel Waterman. Yves, you know what? Andy, let's start with Andy.
Come on.
Any surprising selections from Jesse March? Anything that surprised you? Any players that you don't know?
Well, yeah, there are a few players that I don't know, but I mean the most important thing is that I think based on what he said is that he's looking to use this window to really test out new things. Even though we do have some players that have been selected already for a while now, he's looking to give different opportunities to younger players and trying to start really getting ready for 2026 because it's going to come fast for both teams, US and Canada. So both of them, I'm happy that he's in a sense testing out new as well as old just to kind of see what works, and as he probably transitions into a new phase with newer players. So exciting for the exciting time for Canada men's national team.
I think it's going to be exciting. Eve, you look at that roster, and honestly, there's a couple. Yes, we've heard about Vika Sugur for a long time. We don't know. Honestly, I don't know what he's worth. I've never seen him play, so I'm not going to talk about his performance. But it's a number 6.
Yeah.
Is he knowing that he's the one that just got called up, knowing that also when Sam Adekugbe got hurt, Nathan Saliba was called up? Is this the end for Samuel Piet with the men's national team?
I don't necessarily think it's the end forever, because friendlies are a very valuable time to experiment and to see if players gel, how they fit, not only just like within the lineup, but also with the rest of the squad, the established squad. And I think when Jesse Marsh has been asked about Sam Piet, he's spoken very respectfully of the career Sam Piet has had. And I think there are going to be instances, in the near future when a player with the leadership and the experience of a Sam Piet is going to be very useful to this squad. But I mean, if you know that he's a tried and true player and you know exactly what you can get from him, why not use a friendly when there's really not a lot on the line to try out another player? So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly, to use this time as such.
Yeah. And he also said it's not the last time that Samuel Piet will be called up for the national team too.
Also verbatim.
Exactly. That was his verbatim.
But
but sometimes they say this and they don't do it. So
okay, then I mean he's in his rights not to do it if he doesn't. If he goes against his word, then
for sure.
I don't know how to predict that, Hady.
I'm asking your opinion.
Okay, my opinion is we'll see Sam Piet again.
How important are the next few games for Samuel Piet though? He has to play so much more, so much better. And as we were talking a little bit earlier about the captains showing up and not showing up, he needs to show up because he needs to give Jesse March one of those performances that he's like, there is no way I can turn my back on Piet. He's not done. He's obviously hungry to come back. You guys remember the performances we saw from Joel Waterman the few games before he was selected for Canada, the last window. He played lights out, and that's what Samuel Piet needs to do. We've discussed it in this pod before that we love him as a player. We think he does his job right, but now it's time for Samuel Piet to do just more than his job and actually be more of a leader in the field. That's what I think.
But now,
in order for
talking, if you think that way, how do you explain the call-ups of Jonathan Sirois and Joel Waterman that haven't been playing well?
I mean, look, Joel Waterman, to in my opinion, has been stable, and he seems. I think the way Jesse sees him is maybe as a backup more than the kind of guy that's gonna say lead the team. So he's trying him out, seeing how much of an emergency center back he's good. Jonathan Sirois, again, he's just trying to see what kind of goalie he is. Yes, he's seen probably CF Montreal games and 2023 and some of the stops in 2024, but he probably wants to get an all-around idea, just like Nathan Saliba of who he is as a character, as a player in the practice and all these things. That's important probably to him to see what kind of player you're bringing in with your squad in 2026.
Yeah, and honestly, let's look at the other player that stands out from this roster. Honestly, I haven't watched a lot of MLS outside CF Montreal this year because of lack of time. But Afrifa, I was very surprised to see his name. Yves, do you know of him? Do you know a bit about what he's able to do? I think he's a striker. We have Tamis that says Afrifa is probably better than every offensive player of Montreal and makes only 71K. So, do you know a bit of FIFA?
I mean, I've watched probably less other MLS than you this season, but from the little I do know is, he seems to be kind of versatile across the front line, which is always useful to have with condensed rosters in tournament scenarios, not necessarily, for friendlies when you have luxury of subbing everyone and anyone. He's not scored like a ton of goals for Kansas City by any stretch, but he does seem to have certainly carved himself out of place. Like he seems to be getting regular minutes with them. He's played 18 matches so far this season, which is pretty good for, a draft signing. I would say, he spent some time out on loan, which is always good, of course, for development, I would say, kind of with their MLS Next Pro team. Which is always helpful. And is in decent form. He did score a goal for them in the League's Cup, which, wasn't that long ago. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. I wonder if he's going to be kind of supplanting Tani Oluwaseyi for that kind of behind Kyle Larin and Jonathan David spot. It'll be curious to see. But as well, I think having even more versatility on the wings, in the absence of some of the usual stalwart players like Tajon Buchanan, for example. I think it's definitely an interesting and a worthwhile experiment.
Yeah, exactly. No Tajon Buchanan, no Ishmael Kone, of course, players that are injured 100%. We look also at those players, and for you, who are the players that in a way are playing, I'm not going to say their last card, but are playing big during that international window, that are really looked at very closely? Because you look at players like Moïse Bombito, like Cornelius, like Maxime Crépeau, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies, Stacco. Those players are a must in Jesse March's squad. Then you look other players, and not really sure if they're part of the future, they're part of the plan or not. So for you, who are those players that are not really sure if they're part of the plan or not?
I mean, kind of on the bubble, if you will.
Exactly, on the bubble.
I mean, obviously, I think it's still very much between Dane Sinclair and Jonathan Sirois for second keeper. There are lots of situations where a third keeper will be called, but we have also seen other third keepers called in to this team. And I do think Dane Sinclair does still have the edge for now, for sure. Obviously, Tani Oluwaseyi hasn't been with the national team for very long. He did show some interesting moments when he has gotten a chance, but, he's not necessarily cemented, I would say, his place in the squad. So I could, potentially, if he doesn't get a lot of minutes or if he doesn't make great use of those minutes, I could see him kind of becoming like a Mathieu Choinière or a Joel Waterman and kind of just getting called up like here and there rather than forever, or a lock like the players that you listed. And it might be kind of a bold take because of history, but I kind of have to wonder because Kyle Larin looked so not himself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, but he looked so not like the Kyle Larin, who carried this team hugely in large part, not of course all by himself, to the World Cup. I mean, he's looked so quiet, really, that I would say all year with national team selection, that I could see his role changing if kind of form doesn't pick up at some point, because it wasn't a good Copa America for him.
But do you think it would be changing as if like Jesse March will leave him outside of the squad?
No, not entirely yet. I think he would probably still drop to the bench for certainly a time. But of course, if some of these new faces do come in and really knock everybody's socks off, then I think there would definitely be a discussion to be had.
No, for sure. For sure. Honestly, I agree with everything that you said. Any other players that you think are playing big during this international window? And when I say big is like it's important for them to really perform during that international window.
I would think that it would probably be the same players that Eve mentioned, but more than anything, also if Joel Waterman gets his chance, he needs to play big.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
agree.
important for him if he
Hmm.
wants to solidify. I think he needs to make a name for himself, and Saliba even similar. I think the Saliba one is the one of the most important ones in my opinion because it was important for Mathieu Chouanière when he went to the selection. He went there and he learned a lot. He and every time the players come back from their Canada selection, they say, "I learned a lot, and there's things I want to bring back to the CF Montreal, to my club." I think it's important for them to actually be able to play in that level, be able to play in that kind of strong competition, so that they can come back and know, okay, this is what's expected of me. This is what the coach wants. Well, for Nathan Saliba, it'll be the first time, but say someone like Joe Waterman that has done it already a few times knows what to expect. It's not his first run around, so now he needs to really solidify himself. So I think they have important roles this window. And Jonathan Sirois, similar to Nathan Saliba, is just like suck in the environment, talk to the other goalies, get a lot of ideas as to what this is like for them, and how how they can break through, maybe to make it to be a guaranteed backup for the squad in 2026.
You know what? I completely agree with you with Joel Waterman.
Hmm.
Not really for Nathan Saliba and Jonathan Sirois. For me, Jonathan Sirois, he's always going to be in and out of the squad because
Hmm.
he's a third goalkeeper. I don't even think that he's fighting for a second spot. For me, it's Dane Sinclair's, and it's very, very, very clear. But
Mm.
so Sirois and Saliba is very. It's nice that he gets his call up, but it doesn't matter if he does well or not right now for the future. He's going to be called up again
It's
if
too
he
soon.
picks up his game, in with CF Montreal. But I agree with Eve when with the players that she mentioned, um, when she said Daniel Wasei that needs to prove that he is, and cement his place with the national team. I would add also Ali Ahmed that I think will need
Hmm.
to bring something more. I'm not afraid for Steven Afrifa. As I said, it's just the first call up. So for me, there's not a lot of pressure. I think that Nico Sigur, just because of the whole hype that we heard of around him,
Hmm.
has a lot to play for during this offseason. And you know what? I like your take, Eve, on Kyle Laren. I really like your take. I think that he can, if he doesn't do well, he can be on the bench a bit more often.
Hmm.
At the same time, I would add Theo Bear. Theo Bear moved to Auxerre. He's not doing very well. Auxerre is not doing very well. So the whole team is not doing well. But I think he needs to prove that he has his place
Hmm.
in this
Yeah.
national team. And guys, do not forget something. We do have a player that a lot of rumors are saying that he's going to join the Canadian national team, and that's Daniel Jebison. So if you have Daniel Jebison that comes and joins the Canadian national team, one of those spots in offensively, is going for him. So, all those players playing in offensive positions, they need to make sure that they cement their place in the group as fast as possible. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
this regarding the roster, I think that we said it
Hmm.
all. There's a coaching staff change with Mauro Stacchio joining the team in the coaching staff as an assistant coach. Just a bit of an FYI, he's the big brother of Steven Estacchio, which is a bit weird. Like your brother is your coach too, but a ton of experience for Mario Stacchio playing with the youth national team when he was a player. He's a part of the squad with Dirk Nine in the CPL. Um, he's someone that played abroad too, not a lot, but still played abroad. A ton of experience. I think that's a good thing for Jesse March to add a few Canadians to this coaching staff, and players, like former players too. I think this is going to be very important. I don't know if you like that ad, Andy.
Well, look, at the end of the day, if it's somebody that knows the country, knows how it works and all that, knows the history, it's gonna help. It's gonna help Jesse March understand fully get a better idea as to what what he has to do to improve the program, and he can also maybe like use him as a way to understand how to better communicate with the players, because sometimes the players don't necessarily listen to someone new. They might listen to someone that actually knows the team a bit better, even if it's his brother. He might not necessarily be teaching him the technical aspect or tactics, but more of a liaison between the coaching staff and the players. So I think it's an important ad, actually.
I think it's an important ad. So let's wait and see. Let's look at, first of all, the results of the Canadian men's national team under Jesse March. And then let's look at the two fixtures that are coming for the September window. So Jesse March took over the team. First game that he played was against the Netherlands, a 4-0 loss. But since then, a 0-0 draw against France, an acceptable loss against Argentina 2-0, a win against Peru 1-0. Yes, Andy.
That's not nice. That's not nice.
A 0-0 a draw against Chile, a win
nice.
in penalties against Venezuela, another loss in semifinals against Argentina, and then a very honorable loss against Uruguay on penalties in the match for the third place. How do you rate Jesse March's performances as of right now as a national team coach? And do you think that he can bring this team to another level? Andy?
I like his performances, but I still think it's very up and down. But it's too early. I think these next windows are going to be so crucial for him to start really defining who he is, who he wants to be, and what he expects of the national team. Can he bring him to the next level? I think so, because I actually heard an interview that recently that was done with him on the Footy Prime, where he seems like he's the kind of coach that is, not only is he learning about Canada and the way it works, but he has a lot of innovative ideas. Obviously, Canada soccer right now is going through, to put it, excuse my French, but a shit show right now that they're going through with everything that's happening with DroneGate and everything. But it sounds like he's someone that's staying positive and trying to be innovative and trying to make the best of the situation while trying to find ways to improve the recruiting, the youth, and all that. So will it be something that'll happen tomorrow? Probably not, but I think he can do it.
Yeah. Are you okay, Andy? Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Eve,
sorry.
It's okay. Eve, what do you think about what Andy said about Jesse March and his performances as a national team coach?
Yeah. I mean, he certainly had a baptism by fire, that's for sure. He wasn't given a Cayman Islands or anything like that to play and cut his teeth against. No, I've really enjoyed the soccer that they played under Jesse March so far. Obviously held their own against some very, very tough competition. As your resident pessimist, I kind of thought Canada was going to get booted out of the Copa America, so fast your head would spin. And I was proven wrong. So big credit to Jesse March there. But obviously it's early days, and maybe having the intensity of a really interesting tournament so early on was a good thing, because you kind of had to throw yourself into performance mode so quickly in your tenure. But I think for the small sample size that we have seen, 2 friendlies in a tournament, I think the signs are very, very positive for going forward.
I agree, but let's look at the two opponents for the national team.
We don't know anything about them.
The United States and Mexico.
Yeah.
Eve, since Jesse March joined the team, only played either European teams or South American teams. It's the first time that he's playing against North American teams. And we all know that playing against the US or playing against Mexico is not the same as playing against France, the Argentina, Peru, or Chile. Do you feel that there was a sense of overachievement from the team just because they were playing those teams that they don't really normally play, and that's why they're performed? Or do you feel that Jesse March has something to build on, and we're going to see the same type of performances against those regular foes that we see pretty often?
I would hope that it wasn't just an overperformance because of kind of the magnitude of the occasion. And I think really kind of sometimes you see almost the opposite effect for a lot of teams, particularly when they're under a new coach, is kind of the occasion kind of overcomes them. And I kind of thought that might happen to Canada based on how things went at the World Cup, where I think they were overcome by the occasion. But I mean, Jesse Marsh also played all of his professional soccer, I think all of his professional soccer in the US with with American teams. And he did get 2 caps for the US national team. And maybe he participated in more camps. Like, I'm not sure of that. And I'm not going to dive into the annals of history right now. But he's also coached in MLS, so, and that obviously involves a degree of North American experience. So I'm not super concerned as far as like his ability to prepare the team for these 2 upcoming friendlies. I think definitely now that Canada has kind of indicated that they also want to play with those top clubs in CONCACAF, or not clubs, but selections in CONCACAF, I think the players will have a point to prove. And just to remind everyone that the Copa wasn't an anomaly. And being the only being like the furthest surviving team out of CONCACAF is a sign of more positive things to come. So I'm not worried. I think it should be 2 very competitive matches.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, very nice. Andy, how important is it for Jesse March to get something out of those games? Do you think that right now, let's say he loses the 2 games 2-0, how bad will it be for his reputation? Or is it okay because it's friendlies? Or is it okay because he chose, players that are completely new for the national team? Like, how important are those 2 games, in your opinion?
Well, there has to be the most important thing, even if he loses 2-0, is, are there positive points coming out of each game? Like, say, is there a new gem that's discovered that really works in his system, and are we starting to see the effects of like his coaching and all that, his coaching ability that is actually really having a positive impact on the team? I think one of the most important things, going back to Yves' point, is one of the most important things is that now if Jesse March can use that Copa America, where there were a lot of players that, based on their performances during that tournament, were able to lock in better contracts to other leagues, other countries, make big moves because of their performances then. Like the Kone and their Cornelius that were able to go to Marseille, which was a big move for them. Hopefully they can use that as motivation to be like, I know it's just a friendly, but at the same time, it's a big opportunity for your lifetime. Yes, it's just a friendly. And truth be told, there's actually a lot of people watching the US team right now because of all the talent they have, and because they can't find ways, they keep continuing to find ways to mess it up, even though they have a lot of talent. So we're not going to talk about the US, it's not important, but it's important to know that there's a lot of people watching those games. So hopefully Jesse March can use that as a motivation to his squad to be like, guys, people are watching your performances. Like, it's important that you guys actually take this opportunity to see if you guys are looking to move elsewhere abroad, or wanting clubs to see who you are. That's what I think is important.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be the first game for Mauricio Pochettino, no? Or is he?
No, he's not signed.
He's not there.
He's not signed yet.
Yeah. No. There was a big blow up about that yesterday.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Have too many American friends.
No, coach. Bruce Arena's back.
No. It's still the interim guy.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. So very interesting. So to give the dates, let's put it back the dates and the hours for the games. So Saturday, the 7th of September at 4 p.m. The first game, the States against Canada. The second one on Tuesday, the 10th of September at 8:30. Of course, next week on Sunday, we will talk about Canada, USA, 100% as we always do. This is it for us
Yeah.
today. Thank you very much, guys, for being here with me. Eve, Andy, as usual, always a pleasure to discuss soccer with
Yeah.
you. Thank you, everyone watching here. And of course, as you guys know, this product is always going to be free. But if you want to help us, if you want to give something so we can grow this product and make it even better, feel free to join our Patreon page and give whatever you want to give. And at that point, of course, we'll make sure to reinvest it, like we did with the branding, like we did with the new jingle, and so on and so on. This is it for us. Thank you very much, and see you next week for episode 194 of The Ball Is Wrong.